What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the channel. I am Mookie Stinks. If this is your first time joining us, I just want to say welcome. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the content. Today we're going to talk about a game that was a little bit unique. It came out on Halloween. I decided to download it and give it a shot. It's an indie made game by just looks like two developers, Versidium and Rocket Skeleton. This game is called Sector's Edge. It had an interesting premise, and normally I don't play these types of games. I'm either a Call of Duty or Halo guy. I don't usually go out on a limb with my shooters because I've just always had a bad experience. I'm sure you all have too. These indie made games, they're always like an asset flip. They're all the same. Usually most of them are garbage. But this one, it felt different immediately. You get playing it. And it's early access, so you gotta take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But what I saw in the first couple days it had been out, with the way they were updating this with meaningful, impactful updates, we're talking fixes and additions to the game, which is just something you don't see. I thought the game was good enough to do a review on, so that's what we're gonna do. So sit back and enjoy. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about something that is super important to me, and that's the guns. The first thing I noticed in this game when I went to select the guns was the gun selection reminded me a lot of like Titanfall 1, with a relatively limited selection in each category. But then I started to look at it and realized that everything about the guns was good, though. I really liked a lot of the animations. I liked the way they fired. It was... I don't know, it just felt different. So many of the other indie games, I find that the gun doesn't feel like you're shooting it. When you hit people, it don't feel like you hit them. This one, it feels almost as if you're getting the feeling of haptics, even though you don't have any vibration in your mouse and keyboard. I will say, though, there are a few guns in the game that I just don't feel are useful. And I know that's going to vary depending because of play style and preference and whatnot. But sometimes, like with the railgun in this game, you'll find it feels like bullet travel time is just outlandish. But that's also the one gun where I also notice you don't get that feeling of hitting somebody. You don't feel like you shot it. I don't know, maybe that'll be fine-tuned. Like I said, this is early access game, and they have already done so many updates and whatnot. I just imagine that they'll figure that and get it fine-tuned. For right now, the other things you'll see is the recoil. Again, that all comes down to just feeling like you're shooting a gun. At first, it took a little while to get used to. I thought it was almost a... excessive amount. As you can see, what you're seeing right there on the screen, that was just holding down the trigger and that gun just climbs, which in a sense is realistic, but at the exact same time, there is such thing as a little too much, in my opinion. But again, they trying to go for a little bit of realism here in a surreal environment, and you can't blame them. In the end of the day, when you play a couple rounds with your favorite guns or whatever, you're okay with it. At least I was. I'd rather that than being something where you don't get no kickback and it just feels like a video game, to be honest with you. The other thing I ran into was every now and then I just didn't feel like you were hitting. So maybe that's something they need to tune in. Also, I felt like you have your aim around somebody, you pull that trigger, it's not necessarily registering. But that could have something to do with some of the ping times on the servers. But that's something that we'll talk about here a little bit later, because I did run into that as a problem with a couple other things. But at the end of the day, I will say this. I'll say the gunplay is pretty good. You'll find that one or two guns that you enjoy, and that's pretty much what you'll go with. Here, what you're seeing on the screen, I just ran through all the guns that are available. That on the board right there is your whole entire selection. So like I said, very Titanfall 1 style selection, but some of the guns on there, man, I actually really enjoyed. There's an assault rifle that I absolutely loved. I really wanted to play with that railgun, but I just didn't like the way it felt. I just couldn't get into it. I'm hoping that there's more snipers, and yeah, right here you're seeing that railgun, and it just, I can't tell if I'm hitting that thing. I can't tell if I'm missing. That tail on that beam is just makes it impossible to get good at it. At least, again, this is all my opinion, and you may be a natural-born sniper and made for that gun, but me, I like to play sniping, and it just didn't feel right. So let's move on to the customization. What you're seeing here on the screen, this is me going through their customized menus as of like the 3rd day. So on this update that they came out with on the 3rd day here, gave you color customization. You can see the character models there. They want you to unlock them, but they kind of want you to do it via in-game currency. There was one guy there on the end, he used a token. I'm not sure about that. I didn't look into it too much. So as you can see here, coming to gun accessories, the only real accessory you have is your sights. But at least here they give you a lot of different reticle choices, and all those reticle choices are in-game purchase with in-game currency. So, no big deal there. I'm not 100. I didn't really take the time to figure out and spend time figuring out how exactly you get the currency. I'm assuming it's from winning and playing matches. But either way, this game doesn't only let you just choose between a couple colors of your reticle here. As you can see, this thing allows you to change the color to literally anything you want. It does have skins also, and zoom type. As you can see here, on this gun in particular, you got 2 or 4 times zoom. And that didn't seem to cost anything on any of the guns that was available on, so that's pretty cool. Here you had a choice on, again, gun skins and all that. Mostly all in-game currency from what I saw. It was just a pretty good selection. This gives you more customization than a lot of current AAA games. The groundwork is laid. The choices aren't really there currently, but I can see that this is going to be something they put some time into. Just like everything here, you got your loadouts. I mean, pretty typical. The loadouts work on a power system. As you can see there, you know that loadout right there has 0 out of 15 power. So each gun has the power associated with it, and you build your loadout within a certain power level. So what we're going to get into now is the building aspect of this. This is a objective-based arena, first-person shooter builder with a fully destructible environment, which is a really cool premise. I will say I wasn't huge on this building. You can see here, this is just plain single block building, this little tutorial thing on your ship here, but the building's simple enough. It's a pretty straightforward premise. You got a building tool and a destruction tool. That tool can place single block. I did like here, as you'll see here in just a second, you can build up by building underneath you. You don't got to do the crappy Minecraft jump, build underneath you, move. I wasn't a big fan of having to switch tools to do it. I was kind of wishing there would be just a single button for build and a single button for destroy. Now keep in mind on this too, this is opinion, and I am not a Fortnite player. I do not like Fortnite. So, I might have a little bit of a warped opinion on that. What you saw there was you can actually select different groupings of blocks. And so that kind of made for quick access to building little walls and barriers. So now I just want to jump into talking about the maps and game modes. Now, while there is a assortment of game modes, I did run into the problem of only ever being able to get into a salvage game. I know that they, in one of the patch notes, wrote that they had added like a team deathmatch and a spire. Although, whenever you go to like a quick play, unless you're gonna specifically tick the boxes that says you only want spire, then you pretty much always get thrown into a salvage game mode. This game mode is like a moving King of the Hill style game mode. It's really fun, really fast paced, with a great premise. Again, this game is fast paced with a pretty quick respawn. I think it's a 7-second respawn. So It's really fun with the fully destructible environments. There's always a new way to get to that, that base, or that King of the Hill canisters, I think they call it. So it gets really creative. Camping does become a little bit of a thing in this particular game mode, which to me, I'm just not a camper. I'm a runner and gunner, so it does become a little bit of a problem for playstyles like mine. But if you're really into search and destroy, or capture the flags and stuff like that, this is probably a little bit more up your alley. When it comes to the maps, I really only ever got a couple maps. Maybe that's because they fell into that gameplay or that game mode. But the maps I did get, man, they are beautifully crafted. I like the textures and everything that they have for the skins of all the blocks and whatnot. And the environments are fully destructible. In the beginning of the match, it'll look so beautiful, and by the time it's done, this thing is just a massive mess. It's really fun. It's quick. And, with some of the guns being that rocket launcher or whatever, you can just blow this thing to smithereens in a matter of minutes, which makes for a pretty good time. It also makes for creative style of gameplay, depending on your game mode, because you can just get to the enemy whichever way you want. Which pretty much brings me to the population. Now, every time I logged on, there was about 400 players worldwide, which is good. I never really had to wait to get into a game. However, depending on where you live and when you play, the only problem really becomes is that you may be playing with a lot of people from Australia. That was the case I ran into. I usually play in the mornings. So when I'd log on, there's 400 people, and I can get into a game almost instantaneously. The problem is, unlike when I played on American servers, which were like a 45-second, 60-second ping time, when I'm playing with people in Australia, I'm getting like 100 to 200 millisecond ping time. So that's where earlier when I was talking about sometimes when you're firing a gun, you kind of get this idea that even though you shot first, idea that it just didn't go the way you thought it did. I was running into a lot thinking that maybe that had something to do with it. I could be completely wrong. I'm making no excuses for my horrible gameplay that you're seeing on the screen. I know that this game didn't fit my playstyle, but I had a heck of a good time playing it. So again, no excuses on that. It definitely, the wait times were definitely better than some AAA titles. And I'm talking to you, Battlefield 5. You don't have to wait. With 400 players, you don't have to wait, which is just something that is so meaningful to me with limited playtime that I have. So if you got limited playtime, you want to jump in, you just want to shoot stuff and blow things up, this game is right up your alley. Now let's get into how the game feels. We talked about the gun feels, but let's talk about how the player control feels. It feels good. It feels like Call of Duty 10 years ago. Not 10 years ago maybe, but it feels like Black Ops 3. If we're going to be honest, that's what it feels like to me. It's got the slide motion, but it feels a little clunky. It's got the, it's got the slight lean when you turn, but it's not really able to be utilized because you don't seem to just have a way to just lean. You kind of have to be moving in that direction, and as you know, if you're trying to peek around a corner, you don't want to be moving, because if you do, you're getting shot in the face usually. So in my opinion, it moves well enough. There's definitely some things that they can fine-tune. I feel like the jumping is, it's like all Call of Duty and stuff. It feels a little bit clunky, but it's definitely not the worst I've ever played. The thing is, again, like I said before, the updates. They have been updating this thing every day with fixes and improvements. I feel like these guys really want this thing to be successful. So in my opinion, I think this game is definitely worth logging onto. They need the support. I want them to have it. I can't wait to see what this thing is in a year. So I recommend that everybody who has any interest in any of the things we talked about today to jump in, give this thing a try. Because like I said, this was not my forte. This is not my genre. But man, I enjoyed every second of playing. And I hope that you guys will download this thing, give it a shot, and just truly enjoy, what they have brought to the table that really stands out to me from everybody else. So with that being said, oh, there was, you know what, one more thing, key binding. They allow you to change the key binding, and it's a dang good thing, because they had the slide button, or the crouch, is left control, which doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world, but if you've ever been sprinting with shift, which you have to hold down, and you have to try to slide, with any kind of accuracy, and you're trying to roll your pinky to hit left control, it just got a little bit cumbersome. But luckily they let you customize it. They're not egomaniacs, and it really made for a pleasant experience once I could change it to the mouse buttons. But anyway, I'm done with my rant. At the end of the day, you should download this game. You should enjoy it. And for now, I am Mookie Stinks, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.